You're just shortening David's list left and right.
Yeah, it's like, wow, this is my kind of day.
I believe I think we do have a quorum.
Great.
Yeah, we do.
So I think we're good to get started.
All right, awesome. Thanks everyone for calling in or dialing in or zooming in. Really appreciate your time. We're going to try to see how we can get through this today. Thank you all for being here. And we already have a confirmation on the quorum. So it being 5:02, I'd like to call this meeting to order. All right.
Share my
First
screen.
thing we have here is we want to consent for a vote on the agenda. Is there a motion? Hopefully everybody had a chance to review it.
Motion to consent for the today's agenda.
And
May I
I
make the
second
motion?
it.
Yeah.
Do I have
I'll
a
second.
second?
All right.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. Hearing that, the motion carries. Thank you. We would also, I think we have the minutes as well.
Hey,
Someone's live?
Amber, I just messaged you.
I think I've got this on again. All right. Ice off.
Awesome. Um, I think we need to also vote on the meeting minutes for last
Yes.
month, which was May 27th. So I will entertain a motion to approve if there are no comments or issues with those meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the last month's meeting minutes.
Was that a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. This motion also has passed, so we will move on to our operations and finance updates.
Alrighty, I can share the screen. We will start with Carolina Shores. Let me go here. Alrighty, can y'all see the screen?
Yes.
Trying to zoom in a little bit to make it a little bit easier to look at. But, obviously, as expected in May with the 135-day funding adjustment, there, sizable shift. For the month of May and June, June should be around the same amount. Nick Michaels confirmed that some of the calculations are coming through now, so should be able to hard confirm that here soon once they push out the funding calculation. Whenever I looked earlier today around lunch, didn't see it in there, but anticipating the same adjustment in June as May. And so essentially with the funding adjustment, there is a negative state aid to classroom for the month of May, and there will be another one for June. Truing up the state funding on the calculation error from the state side on your school's state funding throughout the year. Overall, that's going to be your biggest shift on revenue, obviously, going from getting some funds to, I know your prior funding was a lot lower than it was at your 5-day count at the beginning of the year, but from your 45 going from having a little bit of funding each month to a lot less and in the negative, obviously is going to be a pretty big shift there on revenue. But overall, looking at operating expenses, that dropped a decent amount from April, which is anticipated with the funding shift. And then your net income for May is, a negative or a deficit of 53,000, which is down from April, which again is expected. Still fiscal year to date showing a surplus, but only of just over 11 grand, which with the June funding hitting, that'll probably flip a little bit. But we'll slide down here to metrics to where you can see the pretty drastic shifts on funding, which May is this one right here. That is below the line, which again is what kind of leads to the shift in the financials for the month of May, which again will be the same thing you'll be seeing in June. So May had negative funding posted for that month. So that's where you can see it below the line here, which is causing that sharp shift in your budgeted surplus deficit for the current fiscal year. Overall, though, targeted days cash on hand still riding relatively close to that, proposed target of 45 days. So still not any concern there, but, obviously just want to make sure student count's there and everything is caught up and clean running into this, coming fiscal year, just to make sure that doesn't go too far below, but still maintaining well over a month of funding in the bank account, which is still positive. We just always kind of, get schools to shoot for that 45 or a month and a half of funding. Overall, I'll go down to the budget. Oh, a little weird there. There we go. The Zoom's messing with me. But you can see here your state funding is obviously going to take a little bit of hit this year, or base funding. But when you factor in your state, it's not a huge amount, but overall it'll still come in a little bit less because, as I mentioned earlier, your June funding will be negative again. So that's just something to keep in mind looking at it, but overall looking at total income, still trending a little behind, but as you can see up here, you'll have another negative funding in June just on your base funding alone, which will throw it a pretty decent amount off of your budget. But it's kind of good to note your percent of actual revenue versus budgeted is 77% as we go down and look at the expenses. Because then looking at your expense side of the house, most things are running in line or trailing below, which down here on your total expenses, you can see and that's why in May, you're still kind of showing a surplus or essentially geared towards that almost break even point because your budgeted expenses are trending right in line with your budgeted revenue, just like a 1% variance between the two, which is positive. You never want to see revenue trending below expected and expenses trending right on target or above. So nothing too alarming there. It's just something to kind of keep in mind going into the next fiscal year. I know just walking through the budgets and everything, I don't see any issues with next fiscal year. But just something to note looking at this year versus next year. But wanted to kind of open it up, see if anybody had any questions on Carolina Shores before I pivot over to low country acceleration. I know it's riveting stuff. Maybe I'll have to get some streamers or something to keep everybody enthusiastic. Finances, it's their favorite part. So looking at your May funding and May revenue and everything for low country acceleration, as anticipated, there are some shifts that most everybody around their 135-day count will drop a little bit. And then typically it'll adjust in the next fiscal year. But overall, net income for low country is sitting at the negative 29,000. There are the larger expenses on low country acceleration, which contribute to that. But overall, looking at your fiscal year to date, still have a healthy surplus for low country. May is just a little bit less, showing a little bit of a deficit there, but overarching fiscal year to date, sitting at over $500,000 in a surplus, which is positive. Operating expenses again in May dropped, which is anticipated. Usually around the end of the year, operating expenses start dropping along with revenue most of the time based on the 135, but overall nothing too concerning there. And I will drop down to the metrics because you can see base funding having that May adjustment is the big kind of driver of the deficit showing in May. Because as you can see, your 45-day adjustment jumped up, 135 kind of went down, so it's kind of starting to balance everything back out. But then looking at your days cash on hand for low country acceleration and your budgeted surplus and deficit versus actuals is trending well above and beyond. So currently trending a pretty decent amount over where you had budgeted for this fiscal year. And also with days cash on hand, basically coming back around to where you were at the beginning of the year. Still sitting right there around that 105 mark or 105 days, which is a very healthy cash reserve for the school. No issues there. Everything is looking healthy on that side. And then I will go down to the budget. Alrighty. So state funding obviously had a little bit of additional state funding come in. Your base funding is still, trending generally about in line right now. There's going to be a little bit, obviously, of a shift. You won't hit that full budgeted base funding amount just based on what May's funding was, coming in a little bit less there. It will, but overall, your total net income or your total revenue for this fiscal year, you're sitting still around 83% of total revenue, which is positive. And then I will go down here because I know next year, obviously, going through the budget, y'all saw on there, we're going to kind of edit this around a little bit to where it mirrors exactly with the budget. I know I've discussed it before, but with the personnel pieces being broken out, which will now be a lot cleaner to look at for this next fiscal year, whenever you're looking at your total personnel costs, just make sure to kind of factor in that those personnel costs are lumped into the budgeted figure for contracted services, and that's for both schools. But overall, looking at your budgeted expenses, you're sitting at 79%. So currently only at 83% of your revenue, but only at 79% of expenses. So that's where you can see the healthy surplus sitting down there of around $500,000 for the school. Just because you're currently trending below your expenses, but getting pretty close on the revenue side. Does anybody have any questions on low country acceleration?
Bryce, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
On the first school that you talked about, you said on the days cash on hand versus target, you said something about as long as we don't go too far below. What is too far below?
Typically, if you start running below the 30 mark, is where, because then you got to think about it. You get your funding, and that funding is designed to last you a month, and then you get the next one. So if you start getting below that 30-day mark, that's where things have to get really creative. And if student count doesn't start catching up, that's where it can become an issue there. But I mean, currently right now, just below the 45, knowing projected student count and everything for next year. Yes, you will be funded off your 135 at the beginning of the year, but as soon as that 5-day count hits, you'll see that adjustment in September. So it's a pretty quick turnaround, especially if additional students are added. So that's where I don't really see it as a big stress point, but with it being below the 45 is still just something as a board in the school just to keep an eye on. When it gets below the 30, that's where everybody kind of has to pause for a minute.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Bryce.
Yeah, no problem at all. Anybody else have
questions? Okay, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the May 2026 financial reports for Carolina Shores and Low Country Acceleration Academies.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll be hearing from, I think Jacinta on our board report. So,
Yes,
yeah,
thank
here we
you.
go.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Um, just to give you all a few updates, and thank you so much, board members, for what you do for our students in South Carolina. We have been closely monitoring what we call the new accountability bill, which is 454. Sarah Burke is on here with me. She's the director of charter implementation. She's been leading a team to help us stay on track. So Sarah, I'm putting you on the spot so you can outline a few of these areas. And David, I know that there are some items that the General Assembly has passed that are already that we've already taken care of. Some we're also monitoring. So Sarah, can you outline those first few items for us? And David
Sure.
will step in.
Sure. So starting with the biggest lift that Jacinta talked about, this is Senate Bill 454. Our Acceleration Academies team has attended many meetings, including webinars with the Public Charter School Alliance, as well as internal meetings, and have implemented a mini project plan to make sure that we have looked at all facets of this law. And essentially, it's looking at charter school governance, and it's hitting items around financial transparency, board elections, I would say are kind of the top two buckets that we've been looking at. The good news, I think there are a few layers of good news here. When we put a project plan together and looked at what do we have and what do we need, though what do we have in place already was a much higher bucket than what do we need. And candidly, the pieces that we are still waiting on, there is some additional finite detail that's being determined by our authorizer. And the Alliance was very open around that. Everyone is operating under the bill went into effect immediately, but everyone is operating under the good faith of we are all working toward the goals and provisions of this bill. So the question, those of you that were on here a little bit early, the question that David was asking Bryce was around that exact bill. And so things like us posting transactions that have to do with Low Country and Carolina Shores. I won't steal David's thunder, but there are some pieces around the board training. There's a bill listed down here. It is Senate Bill 70 that talks about ethics training and requirements for boards. So those are the pieces that will be kind of unveiling to you as time goes on and we get additional details from the authorizer. Some of the pieces in this bill also are not, the onus is not on us. The onus is on the authorizer to either request things or to share things in a different manner. David, I will pause. I know we have a few other bills in here that I believe you were going to go over, but anything else that you want to color in with 454, our
No,
favorite?
I think you succinctly laid it out. It is a very broad bill. There's a
Yes.
lot of generalities in it, so we need to see how the State Department of Education is going to flesh it out with regs. But you know, I think for the most part, everything I'm seeing is not overwhelming or anything that we can't navigate. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll navigate this well. Did you want me to talk about any of the other bills, or what would be your preference?
Um,
The uniform grading policy, I think we talked about that, David and Sarah, across, communication recently. We already have, South Carolina does have a uniform grading policy that we do follow. But what we have seen in this new bill is now grading floor. So at one point, there were schools that say you can't get below a 50. Well, now you can. So you can't get the 0. So that's what the grading floor means. So we do have GCs that, in our schools that may not complete their assignments and they may be getting zero. So just letting you know, but our goal is to make sure our GCs are making progress towards their high school diploma. And so we monitor that on a regular basis. But that was the one area that I know David and Sarah, you all wanted us to make certain that we point out as well.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is our curriculum does rely on summative assessments. What this bill was doing is saying you can't use formative assessments for giving a grade. And formative simply is a measure of if the kid is way below level and makes progress, a formative assessment would say this is really good. But if that student has not attained mastery of content to earn a grade, then we can't, that can't be used to give him a grade. And that's kind of how we've operated all along. At the end of the day, a kid will not progress to the next level of academics until he has demonstrated mastery of the content he's studying at the moment. So we're on very firm ground here. We have not deviated from what the bill is now requiring in our history. So I'm very confident with that one.
Thank you, David and Sarah. We're moving on to marketing and graduation candidate recruitment. Right now, as you heard from Bryce, some of our numbers are trending low. And this is where you, the board, can definitely come in and help us. We need support on just telling your neighbors and telling your community members about us. What Anne Marie will be doing in the next coming weeks, she's going to send you some marketing materials, just probably about 10 of them. And if you go to Burger King and you see the kid working, I don't know, even know if they still have Burger Kings now. I'm telling my age. So if there are Burger Kings and you see the 16-year-old working, sometimes you can say, hey, you're doing a great job. Are you in school? Because most of our kids are just working full time and not in school at all, even if it's the summer, because so many of them are having to contribute to their family's income. They are a part of the family's breadwinners in that household. So we just need your support and maybe your church members that you are wanting to tell more about us. We do have transportation. Our GCs do have to show up 12 hours a week on site, and they have to be actively engaged in their courses 24 hours a week. So in making progress. So just wanting to let you know that our teams are working extremely hard to recruit and retain our GCs. But with you being a part of our vision and our mission, we would want you to celebrate us as you always do as well. So we will be sending you some marketing materials. And if you have any questions and need an elevator speech, I'll be happy to do so. If you have an engagement that you would like for me to attend and say more about our program, I'm also willing to do that as well. So you let me know. We can step out. I can go as far as you want me to go to tell about what we do under AA's umbrella and the success that we've had because of you, the board, and the number of students that we've seen graduate. So I thank you in advance for helping us with our recruitment and retention efforts along the way. Any questions there, board members? Again, Anne Marie is taking great notes. She will be working with our marketing team to get some materials out to you. Just 10 items. Could be I don't know if it's going to be door hangers or cards or maybe pamphlets. It'll be information that you could just leave someplace for us. So that would be very helpful. So thank you in advance. So as far as our facilities are concerned, operations, we've done some updates we've upgraded our internet for faster speeds. And now we've also put in place a video doorbell at the North Charleston location. I know Bryce just provided us with information on our financials, wanted to provide you with additional information. Both schools are under what we call a continuous school improvement plan because a number of our students aren't graduating on time. And that is the purpose of our model. That's the purpose of our mission, is to really re-engage students and get them back on track to graduate. And some may not get back on track, but the goal is to get them on the journey and pathway to receive that high school diploma. So there are funds that are a part of helping us with ensuring that our GCs are graduating, doing well academically, and also we're aligning them with ways to get meaningful employment. So Low Country received a total of 32,000 and a federal allocation amount. They've for their state allocation amount, they've received 170,000. That money will go towards hiring an interventionist, as well as hiring a graduation coach, and also having some after school, late evening intervention for reading, math, career readiness as well. Carolina Shores received 26,000 in their federal allocation, and for the state, they've received 150,000. And again, they will also be employing an interventionist, as well as also buying software to address some of those areas that our GCs need more additional support on. That's it, unless you have questions, and I'll go on to personnel. Next, we do have a director finalist that is will be signing their offer soon, or may have signed their offer today. I've been in a session all day with Michelle and our state transformation coach, building our plans for next year. So I will, in our next board meeting, we'll be able to introduce you to our new director for Low Country Acceleration Academy. So we do have someone that is a finalist. We have also employed a school counselor who started at the beginning of this week. She comes to us from Oceanside Collegiate Academy, and her name is Tiffany Richardson, and she's a certified school counselor. So that's a plus for us. Education, as far as Low Country, Low Country has achieved a total of 300 course completions so far this month. They have a credit earn rate of 0.33. Our goal is 0.50, and they are trending in the right direction to attain that goal for this month. Our team members have completed more than 1,000 outreach contacts to support our GC's attendance, retention, and academic progress. We're continuing to plan for graduation. We're doing transcript reviews. We're also, as far as our community partnerships, we address a number of barriers as it relates to attendance. And most recently, we strengthened our partnership with the Florence Crittenton Home. And as you know, it's a location where we have teenagers who have babies. And so we also have a parenting center here where our GCs can show up on site with their babies. So Florence Crittenton is working with us on strengthening our partnership with them. But that's it for Low Country. Carolina Shores, I am going to turn it over to our director, Michelle Klein.
Hi, everyone. So for the education program for Carolina Shores, we've achieved 143 course completions with a current credit earned rate of 0.41. And I am really confident that the team is going to meet and or exceed that. Staff completed more than 700 documented outreach contacts to support attendance and academic progress at our school. For college and career readiness events, we continued graduation planning and post-secondary readiness, supported career exploration and transition planning. And we are actively building out our college and career readiness events and activities for students for the upcoming academic year. We have 3 events already scheduled for the month of July for students to participate in. So some of those are like professional communication in the workplace, art therapy, self-care presentation. We are doing a partnership with Coastal Sea Turtles and doing a learning experience there as well. And then for community partnerships, we continued development of community outreach, and we do have upcoming events in August, September, and October scheduled to promote enrollment. And we have 180 students currently enrolled with us, 24 in the pipeline. We have one graduate, and then we have 143 course completions.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That concludes our board report. Board members, do you have any questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for all that you do. And you are the champions for our students here in South Carolina as it relates to re-engagement. So thank you again for all that you do. All right, back to you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you all for that update. Everything sounds so encouraging and positive. So for our governance items, we're going to need to vote on our July meeting date.
Yes, board chair. So what happened, last year you all do decide on whether or not you want the July board meeting. So that's that area that you all are looking at now.
So yeah, we usually do that, and then if there's anything that really needs attention, we kind of do an email where we need to vote or something like that. So to the board members, I guess we're voting on whether or not we should forego officially meeting in July. So all those in favor, well, I'll get a motion first. A
So
motion
moved.
to, yeah,
So moved.
forego July meeting. Can I get a second?
Second, aye.
Awesome. Any questions? Anybody have any issues with that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries that we will not meet on Zoom during the month of July. 2026 board. Okay, 2026, 2027 board meeting votes, voting for that. What can it just have to kind of explain that to me, please? Sorry.
So for your board calendar for the upcoming year, your dates are every fourth Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m.
Right.
So if you all want to keep the same schedule, then you would go ahead and vote on this calendar. We have included information about the board retreat, but that has not been finalized yet. And that usually takes place live on one of our sites. So this year it may be Low Country Acceleration Academy, and that's our board meeting calendar that's in front of you, and that was also part of your packet for this upcoming year for 26 through 27.
Perfect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we pretty much put it on Wednesday because I have a
Mhm.
lot going on, and so this was adjusted for my schedule.
Mhm.
Before we vote on it, does anyone have any issues that precludes them from meeting on this same Wednesday that we're currently on the schedule? Okay, well, I'll entertain a vote for the 2026, 2027 board meeting calendar.
I make a motion to approve the board meeting calendar.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We will adopt the calendar as outlined for 2026, 2027. The next item on governance, we have the approval of resolution clarifying year-round operations of Low Country Acceleration Academy and Carolina Shores. Jacinta, do you have like a blurb we can put in here? Just
Sure, sure. David, did you want to outline what that is?
Yeah, basically, because we're a 12-month program and the state is unfamiliar or doesn't have the regulations set up for a 12-month school year, we wanted to very adamantly point that out because the way they want us to schedule things is not appropriate for the population we serve and for the year-round program our students are in. So we just wanted to have real clarity that, look, this is not your traditional brick and mortar 9 months of a year high school. This is a year-round program and it's designed for this to meet specific needs. So in a nutshell, that's all it's about.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you so much. Because we do have an instructional calendar that begins in August. And that goes from August to June. But during those months that David is talking about, we're talking about those additional months. We're operating around having orientations. We're doing reorientations. We're doing rollover of our courses. We have GCs who are finishing courses. We have some of those who are trying to get back on the cohort to graduate. So we just wanted to clarify what that looks like when we're saying year-round operations. It's not, they're actually on the calendar for instruction. They're actually other opportunities that we can help that GC when it comes to Accelerate. So just wanted you all to make certain that there's clarity around what that means for year-round operations.
and thank you for that explanation. Does anyone have any additional questions about this particular item? Okay, seeing as there aren't any questions, do I have a motion? I'll state a motion to approve the resolution clarifying year-round operations for LLA and CSA.
Make a mo. Damn, I can't remember what you just said.
This motion.
I make a motion. I make a motion. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the motion carries for the resolution clarifying year-round operations for Low Country and Carolina Shores Academy. And we are moving on to our emergency e-learning day authorization. Pretty much an approval for emergency learning day allows up to 5 e-learning days during 2026, 2027 school year. Any questions on that? All right, if everyone's okay with that, do I have a motion to approve up to 5 e-learning days in the 2026, 2027 school year?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. We will adopt this up to 5 e-learning days in the next school year calendar, 26, 2027. Let me make sure, sorry, I'm gonna jump back to my agenda real quick.
It's time for an executive session and I'm going to assign everyone.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything on those items. All right. Okay, so we are going to go into executive session as Anne Marie has stated. She's going to put us in and we'll hop in there and then we'll come back out.
Anne Marie, I think I was supposed to be in there.
You're on mute, Anne Marie.
Let me add you in there, and I apologize for that.
No problem.
There you
Thank
go.
Star of the
Thank
show.
you.
I'm to join, correct?
Yes.
So Anne Marie, just a reminder, if, and I have a note down to make sure we get those marketing materials out to our board members.
I
I just
have.
did a great commercial, y'all.
You did. You did. And I have that put down to do that as well, because I also wanted to talk to you about getting some stuff for them for when we do have our board retreat, retreat in November.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
We're back. I think.
All right. Hopefully everyone has made it back over. And for the record, discussion during the executive session was limited to announced personnel matter. No votes were taken. And there isn't any vote we need to take. It was more of an information session. Mhm. We will move into our public comment. We will hear if anyone's on the line and wishing to make any public comments. We usually don't have this, but just check in. Anne Marie, did anybody sign up for public comments?
No,
Or-
ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. All right, well, we will look to adjourn. There being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second? Second motion for adjournment?
I can't make the second, but I would love to.
Did everybody
I'll
make?
second. Yeah, I'm second.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. Everyone in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries. We are adjourning at 5:58 PM on June 24th. Thanks, everyone, and a reminder that we are not going to meet line for July. See you all in August.
And David, if you stay on real quick, I'll get your email, send something to you.
Okay, very good. I'll stay.
All right, everyone. Bye-bye.